I spent 10 years in the United States Army. I always knew that I didn't want to spend an entire career in the military. I wanted different opportunities and chapters in my life. So I decided to use the Army's GI Bill and go to college to get my master's and PhD in astronomy. I became really enthralled with the stars and space travel, interstellar, black holes and neutron stars. And I would talk to about some constellations with my younger soldiers, and they kind of felt wowed. And I remember one soldier telling me, "Oh, you should be a professor one day." And I was like, "Oh, maybe, who knows?" That was 20 years ago, and now no longer teaching astrophysics, but I guess that was a part in my life that inspired me to become an astronomer as well. Astronomy is such a huge field with so many puzzles to solve, and I can't solve every mystery in the universe. I am focusing now on Mars and some of the moons of the Jupiter and Saturn. My first investigation as an astronomer was comets. So I was interested in hydrogen line. So we looked at some comets in the solar system, the nearby comets, and we published a paper on the hydrogen spectra of comets. By investigations, I would say I have about 25 peer-reviewed papers. The last 5 actually has been focused strictly on the solar system. I've only done one paper terrestrial, and that was an impact crater in the Sahara Desert in Egypt. And that one was published with the University of Cairo about 12 months ago. I don't measure science as a success. Science is not an award-based thing for me. I get more enthused by publishing something and having curious little kids asking me questions and inspiring them to become possibly scientists or engineers or mathematicians. So when I do research and I write papers, I'm not looking for an award. I'm not competing for anything. I'm not looking for recognition. So we published with the Journal of the Academy of Sciences, lava tubes on Mars, and we want to go to Mars. And the more spacecraft we have been sending there in the last 30 years, we're starting to realize that the radiation environment on Mars is worse than expected. So how are we going to live on Mars? Most likely we'd have to leverage and exploit the natural resources there. So what we do is called analog investigations. We find something that's very similar to Mars here on Earth. We call that comparative science. And in this case, we have lava tubes in Utah, New Mexico, California, that are really strikingly similar to those on Mars. So we can go there and do radiation experiments and then use deductive reasoning with spacecraft data that we have from NASA. But our most notable investigation was the detecting of hydrogen spectra in comets. That was 4 years ago. That one received a lot of attention, possibly maybe 100 interviews, a lot of questions from around the world. Science requires money. In this case, it's usually grants. You have to compete for grant money, and there are 1 million Antonio Parises around the world trying to get that little bucket of money. It's always going to be a funding issue. So the first 2 books is basically debunking a lot of the folklore out there about extraterrestrial life. And then the 3rd book is more science-driven, and it's the geological history of Mars.